Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm here with another set of 3-book wrap-up that I've been doing. So as you would have seen from the thumbnail, today I'm going to be talking about Skullduggery Pleasant, Wayward by Blake Crouch, and The House in the Cerulean Sea. So let's get started. So the first one is Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy, which is the first book in what I think is a massive series. I know there are at least 14 books in the series, and it is an urban fantasy book. I think it's a YA rather than children's or adult. I'm going to read you the blurb just because if I try to explain it, the charm will definitely be lost. But Stephanie's uncle Gordon is a writer of horror fiction, but when he dies and leaves her his estate, Stephanie learns that while he may have written horror, it certainly wasn't fiction. Pursued by evil forces, Stephanie finds help from an unusual source, the wise-cracking skeleton of a dead sorcerer. So, as you would have known from the blurb, we follow the main character Stephanie, but I think if I remember correctly we sometimes go into other people's perspectives as well, which adds to the story, so you get to see it from different angles. And we've got this character as well, Skullduggery Pleasant, who is this one here. So he is a skeleton, as you can see, and he's really funny. Like, I didn't expect the book to be funny. I thought it was going to be something a little bit different, but it surprised me in a good way because it was quite humorous, especially the banter between Stephanie and Skullduggery. It was funny. I laughed out loud quite a few times, so that was really quite funny, and the tone of the book is definitely quite light. Considering it's only the first book in a set of series, I'm guessing I haven't experienced of what's going to happen in the future, so I'm going to be only judging it from the first series, but I've decided I'm not planning to carry on with the series, unfortunately. It just wasn't quite enough for me. The plot was interesting, and at the beginning of the book to about halfway through I was thinking, wow, this is amazing, it's going to be one of my new favourite books, it's going to be one of my new favourite series, because it also gave me slightly like nostalgic vibes from like book series that were written in early 2000s, because this one was written in 2007, well, published in 2007, so it's one of those older books that I sometimes still crave and want to read just because of the nostalgic value. And so this one was definitely one of them. But going after halfway through, for some reason I sort of started losing interest in it. I'm not quite sure why. It wasn't quite enough for me. It felt a little bit more generic, like it's a story I've read a billion times before in just different sort of series. I do understand that this is obviously written before all of the newer ones that have been out since, but still, I don't know, I don't want to carry on, and I gave this one 3 stars at the end, which might be honestly 3.5 if I'm fair, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the book, and I'm sure if I carried on with the series I would have changed my opinion about it or would be more interested, because we've got a few interesting characters in there, like this lady there. She's definitely quite intriguing. I would like to know more about her because she seems to have these powers that she can make anyone do anything, or she can change people's minds in her favor and stuff like that. So that's quite interesting. I don't know who that is, I could only guess, but there's like a main villain as well, so you see where that's going. But yeah, it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it, but at times I was a little bit bored in the second half of the book, and it just felt a little bit generic, and like not enough was happening for me to carry on with the series, unfortunately. I might one day, if I see one, still pick it up and read it, but at this point in time I'm not planning to do that. It's so hot. So my next book I'm going to be talking about is Wayward by Blake Crouch, which is the second book in the Wayward Pines thriller trilogy. So it's like a sci-fi thriller, and in the first one, Pines, we follow our main character who finds himself on a road, clearly after an accident. He doesn't have a wallet, he doesn't have an ID card, and he's taken to the hospital, but he senses something is sinister going on because the doctors are being slightly weird and stuff seems to be a bit weird. So he's trying to think what the hell is going on, and he remembers that he came to this small perfect town to just find the 2 missing agents that his colleagues, because he works for the government, he's like a secret agent for the government, so he came on a mission to find the 2 missing agents there, but he finds himself in a situation of a different kind of thing. So obviously, since this is the second book, I'm not going to be talking about the plot of this one. I can just, as I briefly mentioned the first one, and if you're interested to see my thoughts on that one, I will leave the link to the video down below for you to check out. But there's not going to be any spoilers for this one. I'm just going to briefly mention my thoughts about this one, rather than like repeat myself for what I said about the first book. But this one, I liked it as well, and I feel like I kept thinking that the third book was going to bring something even more exciting, and I'm so right. The second book finished in a way and I was like, whoa! So this stuff is going to go definitely crazier than it was in the second book. It's going to be amazing, I feel like, and I can't wait genuinely to read the third book. But this one, I gave it 4 stars because honestly, Blake Crouch is definitely one of those authors that he blows my mind, and he goes with his books in places that I don't expect them to go, and it's always surprising. It's always amazing how he puts things together and how the twists that happen, I never expect them. I couldn't even possibly comprehend the possibility of that happening. So that's one of the things. And yeah, I love it. Like I mentioned in the first one, the first half I was a little bit bored with, but the second one, when the sci-fi element was introduced to us, that's when I was super hooked, and the second book was not a disappointment at all. We still follow the same main character, but he's in a different position now. I can't say much more. So we're still discovering more about this town, what's exactly happening, discovering more about that sci-fi element that I've mentioned already. So we're just slowly learning everything about it. We get to know a couple of different characters as well, get to see the internal things going on to do with that sci-fi element. I find it really difficult to speak about this book without spoiling, but it is what it is. I really enjoyed it and I can't wait for book 3. And then the last book that I finished is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which is like it's called as middle grade for adults, which yeah, I definitely see that. So in this book we follow our main character, whose name is Linus Baker, and he works for the government essentially. He works in department in charge of magical youth, which means he basically goes to different orphanages and makes sure that they are functioning as well as they should be, and that the children are safe, fed, and all of that stuff. But this time he is given a task to go on this island for a month to this orphanage where there are 6 supposedly dangerous children, and he has to decide whether that orphanage still stays or whether it needs to be closed. This book, just to say, is a really popular book. Everyone loves it so much, and what's happened in this one for me is something I was kind of scared for. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did. I only gave it 3 stars. I know, please don't hate me for this, but it's just my opinion. I did enjoy the atmosphere. It was really quite cute, and I think I sort of cried in a couple of places. A couple of times it was really quite funny, and what I liked the most about this book is the relationships between children. There are 6 different children, like I said, with different abilities. Some of them are really quite dangerous, and we slowly see how Linus Baker is changing internally whilst interacting with these children and this master of the orphanage as well. So the relationships in this are just so sweet. They were incredibly sweet. The way they talk to each other, they're so like caring and so friendly. They would go above and beyond to help one another. It was just beautiful in that way for sure. And the atmosphere was really quite, again, sweet and really cozy and really nice. Really light as well. This book is definitely light-hearted, like people explain as well. It's like a warm hug in a book, which yes, I do agree with. The reason why I gave this one 3 stars is purely because for me it felt like there wasn't quite enough plot. So whilst I enjoy seeing these interactions and different changes that were happening to Linus and the romantic interest that was going on as well, that was interesting, but like I said, the plot, I needed more of a plot. So there wasn't much of a plot to the book at all. I felt like there were some things that happened that were interesting and sort of moved the story forward a little bit more, but in general I felt like I didn't have enough plot, so there wasn't enough happening for me, and I don't always have a problem with that. So I'm happy to just follow the characters and see their internal thoughts and how they change and like stuff like that, interactions with people. I don't always need the plot, but in this one for some reason I felt like that was really lacking for me. And I know it's a really unpopular opinion and I know a lot of people love this book. I'm just as usual, when it comes to a popular book, I'm always the weird one who doesn't like it as much, and it's always happened, or at least a lot of the time. So it's not anything new to me. That's why I was hesitant to read this book in the first place, because I thought my expectations were so high, and when I actually read it, it wasn't quite as good for me personally as I thought it was going to be, which is a shame. But I still enjoyed it. I still gave it a 3 stars, so it's not a bad rating, and I would definitely recommend it to people. And I see why a lot of people would love it so much, because it is sweet and adorable and just like a piece of fresh air, I guess, as well, because it's just the sweetest thing. I'll also briefly mention the audiobook that I DNF'd. Yes, I'm back to audiobooks, and the first one, funnily enough, that I decided to listen to was a disappointment. I'm just trying to find it on my phone. So the book is called The Spirit Engineer by A.J. West, and I really like the cover of this book. This book is set in 1914 in Belfast. We follow our main character, who is like a man of science, and he doesn't believe in spiritualism, whatever the word is. But one time when he's sat in a circle with these people, something happens that sort of makes him change his mind, which sounds really intriguing, and it definitely would be one of those books that I would absolutely love, because the kind of premise sounds interesting. But I don't know whether it was because of the audiobook or because it was just genuinely not for me. I listened to, I think, an hour or 2 hours of the book and decided to DNF it then, just because I couldn't stand the main character. He was just annoying. He was rude, he was all like obnoxious and a bit arrogant, and I just wasn't there for that. I just couldn't get over it. And if I have to listen to something about somebody who's so unpleasant, I'd rather not. So the book could have been good, so don't take my opinion on it. I'm just telling you that I finished, well, not finish it, I decided not to finish it for the reason of the main character. He might have not been that annoying if it wasn't in the audiobook, I don't know, but here we go, I DNF'd the audiobook. So yeah, these are the 3 books that I read recently. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. Also, please let me know which was the recent book that you read and what you thought of it as well. I always love to hear your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!